Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me on. Yes, I will give a quick update on what's going on in Washington. You have sort of these competing messages coming out of the Trump administration. You have one that says, hey, we're going to extend the Trump tax cuts for another 8 years. So we continue to experience the Tax Cut and Jobs Act through 2025. And then they would extend that for another 8 years through 2034. But you're also getting competing messages from Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who is now saying that Trump's goal, it had originally been to waive income tax altogether. It is now, as of yesterday, about 3 p.m., to completely eliminate income tax for anybody making $150,000 or less. So you have that message that is now sort of competing with this broader message of extending the tax cuts for another 8 years. You also have this concerted effort on the part of the Trump administration to also eliminate Social Security tax. Okay. Now, keep in mind, only 40% of Americans pay tax on their Social Security. So these are generally people with lots of other streams of income. They would only really save $560 annually per year on average. So it's not going to move the needle a lot, but it sort of can be perceived as this huge win for the Trump administration if they happen to push it through. Now, there's only two problems. Well, there's one larger problem with both of these proposals. Well, actually, all three of them. They all sort of blow a hole in the budget. Okay, the Trump tax cuts are going to add, unless they cut expenses elsewhere, which they haven't proposed to do yet, going to add another $5 trillion to the federal debt over the course of the next, between now and 2035. The elimination of Social Security tax in seniors would accelerate the insolvency of the trust fund by a full year. And then waiving taxes on anybody making under $150,000 per year is going to blow about a $400 billion hole in the budget per year. So you multiply that over 10 years, that's another $4 trillion of debt. So all of these things are sort of great aspirational type goals on the part of the Trump administration, but unless you find a way to pay for them, the net effect is to increase the debt over time. Now, we are already in a position where the national debt, which is currently at about $37 trillion, will grow $2 trillion per year, notwithstanding Doge's best efforts, it's still going to grow. So that by the time 2035 rolls around, we'll be at about 57 trillion. You throw another 5 trillion on top of that for the cost of extending the Trump tax cuts for another 8 years. So that gets us to about 62 trillion. And then if he gets through any of these other initiatives, then you're going to be sort of layering more debt on top of that. So we're at the point where everybody recognizes that we risk a debt crisis if we don't right our fiscal ship of state. In fact, recently, this is a study I love to quote. Recently, Penn Wharton came out with a study that said if we don't right our fiscal ship of state right away, that by 2040, no combination of raising taxes or reducing spending will arrest the financial collapse of our nation. David Walker, former Comptroller General of the federal government, has also said that tax rates have to double or we go broke as a nation. So more and more people, more and more experts are starting to agree. In fact, there's very, very few people that disagree with this sort of hypothesis that tax rates have to rise dramatically within the next 10 to 15 years, or we sort of enter this debt snowball from which there really is no deliverance. So how am I preparing my clients? I really talk about, in a rising tax rate environment, you need to have between 4 and 6 different streams of tax-free income, none of which show up on the IRS's radar, but all of which contribute to you being in the 0% tax bracket. And the reason, let's go through all 6 of those real quick. The reason I recommend 6 is because, and then we'll talk about the 7th here at the end. The reason I recommend 6 is because they all do something unique. They all have unique attributes that set them apart from all of the other streams of tax-free income.